Kingwood Center Gardens is both the legacy and vision of Charles Kelley King. That vision included not only the beautiful gardens, but its prominence in the community as a cultural and arts institution. The logical next step was the Garden Gateway project, so that we could fulfill that vision by honoring the past and growing the future.
There's not a lot of botanical style gardens in this area. You have to go to larger cities to see that, so to have something in our backyard like this is pretty special.
Kingwood, of course, is a historic treasure. It's on the National Register of Historic Places. It's known throughout the country. And so the opportunity to culminate that historic preservation aspect of what Mansfield has and can bring forward into the future was pretty important to me.
In 2008, when the economy fell apart and our income from the trust just really went down, it was obvious for everyone to see that our system of financing Kingwood was not working for the long run. Eventually that led to the master planning, which addressed a wide range of issues, not just the financial. The very first step in our realization of our master plan restored the old exhibit hall, called it the Carriage House.
Ultimately, we did two more buildings, a wing to the service building as a preface to the main visitor center.
When I came, we had this fundamental problem with arrival. You'd come into the parking lot and you'd get out of the car and you'd kind of look around and you have to think, well, gee, where am I supposed to go? And then you just have to kind of introduce yourself to the place. So this really solved a big problem in just the sense of how we present ourselves to the public.
When you looked at it on paper, the blueprints, you could tell it was going to be a really nice project. But when it actually started to come together and you saw the features and the way they looked and the way they tied into the grounds, you knew that you were working on something that we have not worked on in our careers and quite possibly won't work on again.
In historic preservation, the last thing you want to do is just mimic what's there. The last thing you'd want to do is put a building here that looks exactly like Kingwood Hall. It wants to have its own sense and place and time. Then the challenge becomes well, how do I do a new building that has its own place and time that still has some of these contemporary keys?
Being able to match up the finishes like with the existing mansion. For one thing, I'm thinking is this slate roof. In our 50 plus years, we've never done an entire slate roof before. It's one of those things that when you're done and you can step back and look at it, it's really unique and you appreciate being able to work on it.
To be able to take these contemporary items like our big arched windows and large glass and everything, aluminum entrance frame, and to work it into a vocabulary that still has a historic aspect to it, that's kind of what I'm most proud of.
Dan Seckel felt comfortable knowing that I could take his vision of the exterior and bring it to the interior. When you walk into the home, the floor has a diamond pattern. I use that same diamond pattern on the floor, but only in a larger scale. When you stand in the sunken gardens and you see that curved eyebrow around the trim of that, that's why the desk has that. And underneath the desk, there's a blue tile that was actually made in Attica, Ohio. But I felt like it emulated the peacock and had the look of the peacock and its feathers. In the exhibit hall, when you look on the floor, you will see a compass rose pattern laying in the blanket of that. That compass rose, in my opinion, every point points to something beautiful. So everything that was done was chosen with a plan and a purpose and a reason.
This was kind of two projects and they were almost equally split with money. The building was about half the money of the total project and the ground improvement was the other. So the building portion is stuff we do all the time. When we started, the west end of the project was at grade and then it rolled downhill. So in order to get a level pad, as we came to the east, when we finally got to the greenhouse, it was about 8 feet of fill. And I know the foundation for the greenhouse wall was, just for the foundation alone, was around 40 cubic yards of concrete for that, which is pretty big for that small of a wall. We're strong with bricklayers and carpenters, so this is kind of our thing. But with the site, this was very unique for us. We've never done a project that included this much site work as far as bridge and pavers and some of the exterior concrete.
We provided utility design, sanitary, and water, but a major component was stormwater management. They have a significant watershed coming through the middle of the gardens through the visitor experience. So a big part of stormwater management is conveying that runoff in a safe manner. The Cypress Stream is a feature just outside of the Garden Gateway Center. When water comes down through that channel, it's going to allow that water to spread out and slow down. Some of that can discharge back into the ground, then the rest will go through the storm system and out to the nature pond.
The retaining wall, that was the first phase of the project, and it was kind of utilitarian. It's on the west side of the building over here, and that wall's about 6.5 foot tall, and it runs about 150 foot long. And then we have about roughly 8,000 square feet of brick sidewalk that go through the garden, roughly another 5,000 square feet of patterned bluestone out here on the terrace, and then there's another section of irregular bluestone down there by the pavilion. And I would say there was probably several hundred truckloads of soil that came in, several hundred ton of other boulders, natural stone that we use for either backfill or doing creek beds. We put in a whole new underground irrigation system for the plants, turf, for this new project, but we also installed a new main line that runs to their existing system so they can run the rest of the grounds with the system that we put in. Combined, it was the largest project we've done to date.
We've always been an exceptional public garden, but now we have so many more ways to introduce them to the amazing horticulture that we strive for here.
It's so exciting with the capital project that we just completed to have new gardens with new design, professional design.
All of the planting and sourcing was done by Kingwood. That's pretty impressive for a project that size.
There are 4 gardeners, and then we had several seasonals that helped us with the Garden Gateway project.
Right now we have the most professional gardening staff we've ever had. They're not a labor force to mulch and weed, but they're managers of the garden in a sense that they understand how the garden works and what represents failure, what represents accomplishment. So they're massaging the garden. They're constantly making it better. They're not just doing rote work.
I'm so excited because this garden is going to evolve as it grows. We start with small plants, and it is going to be this lush, beautiful meadow-like space that people can really immerse themselves in.
It's a new era for Kingwood. New buildings, new gardens, new logistics for how people come and experience Kingwood. And the key really was making a visit to Kingwood have more and more value to the visitors.
What the Garden Gateway project has done is it has brought us to the next level. It is very true to Mr. King's vision of this being a center for where the community can come for education, for inspiration, for recreational enjoyment.
I think that Charles Kelley King would be proud and pleased of what we've achieved for the Honoring the Past, Growing the Future campaign at Kingwood Center Gardens. The initial goal was $8.5 million. We exceeded that to the point of having a campaign that has raised more money than any other project or such endeavor in Richland County. $10.4 million was raised from entirely private sources.
And it was done by a wide range of industrialists, business titans, long-standing donors, members, our volunteers, 100% participation from our employees, from the small gifts to the very large. People feel so connected to Kingwood Center Gardens, and for many, it's generations.
And to know that it's really worthwhile is simply to watch children. It's just a delight to see that these are new generations that are making memories. And I hope in turn that over the decades we'll see continued support from these precious, precious families.
Kingwood staff, from planting to the general contractors are putting concrete in the ground. I mean, the whole thing kind of coming together as one big project, and seeing our employees and our team grow as well through the whole process. I mean, it was just a fun project to be a part of.
Only could have happened if everybody really got along well, worked together, and had a lot of pride in what they were doing.
One of the joys of being in construction is that you can tangibly see something that you've done. And if it looks like this, then it's well worth it.